put myself in the stream. Oops. There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are now live on YouTube and Facebook, so please don't swear. We always swear in these workshops. If you don't want your voice to appear on the archive, please put your hand up and go like that, and that will indicate that I need to listen to your question. I will paraphrase it and then answer it as best as I can. Has anyone attended one of these sessions before? A couple. Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'm not Debs. A couple of times a year she can't make it. And at that stage, I either have to don a wig and step in, or I've got a pair of role-playing spoons I occasionally use. But I didn't pick them up from her before she went to the States this time, so I don't have them with me. So, as the majority of you have never been to one of these sessions before, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background to them, what it's all about, and why I think they're probably one of the most essential parts of LAM nowadays. So, approximately 7 years ago, there was an almighty set of cock-wombling clusterfucks connected with consent and the community, and it was an awful mess. And Deb stepped forward and said, I think we need to start doing some kind of consent-based workshops. We need to be providing some space where people can come along and talk about what's going on, talk about the biochemistry. I've ended up with 2, thank you. Oh, that's the other one. Okay, thank you. Create a space where, rather than people formed teams on FetLife or whatever social media platform and duked it out, throwing insults at each other, we wanted to create a more healthy space. And that's kind of what these workshops became. And we thought we'll do a couple of them and then everyone will get bored. No. So often when it's Debs, there's a queue outside and up the staircase, and we only allow 50 people into the room, which is why they're now streamed, because otherwise not everyone would be able to enjoy it, and it's nice to have an archive. So what comes up in the sessions? Just about everything and anything. Lots of repeat subjects come around time after time. Oh my God, I've just discovered during the last 2 years in this pandemic that I might be kinky. Am I normal? Hell fucking hell. I hope you're all normal, because Christ, if you're not normal, there's no fucking hope for us lot. Okay? It's one of those, everyone coming into the scene has their own issues to start off with, because society tells us that this isn't normal behaviour. Oh my God, you enjoy beating people? You enjoy being beaten? Oh, that's scandalous behaviour. I mean, are you sure it's okay? Are you sure you both agree? Can you not work out your differences another way? Maybe something more productive, like needle cross. It's one of those crazy things. So there's lots of societal norms that we are told that we are not supposed to do. And therefore, there's kind of a lot of battling that we all have to do to get to where we want to be in kink, to overcome some of that conditioning. One of the big ones that I've helped people tackle over the years is those that like verbal humiliation. There are people out there that want to be called a filthy, dirty fuckbucket, a slut, or whatever. Okay, that floats their boat. But as society, we're told you're not allowed to talk to people that way. And sometimes it takes a really interesting session where you get both parties together and you get them to go, right, okay, please explain to this person what you get out of being called those horrible things. God, it makes me as wet as the week is long. Oh, I'm ready for this. It gets my juices flowing. It really starts the whole process for me. If you want me to be truly submissive, call me those things, because it starts the process. And they're sitting there going, wow, okay, didn't quite register in that way. So if you love this person, do what they want you to do. They've asked specifically for you to use these terms that you wouldn't normally do, and I totally get that all of your programming growing up said you can't say things like that to people you love. But actually, in this particular context, the people you love want you to say those things. So sometimes it's about encouraging communication to overcome those initial issues that we all have. Okay? It's a difficult one. Growing up and discovering you're kinky, you either find out yourself and you have that feeling that, oh, actually, I'm enjoying this a little bit more than possibly other people might be doing. And I like it when I wriggle into the sleeping bag and it's really incredibly tight and I feel restricted. And lots of people will have those memories and those images early on in life, but they will often also have them at the understanding that they are different in enjoying that. I grew up in an incredibly straight household. No other members of my family, as best as I know, are kinky even in the slightest. And actually the household I grew up in had very much traditional values, and washing people's mouths out with soap and water was a very common type thing. So nowadays I can swear like a bloody trooper. I'm comfortable with doing that. But it's not something that I just woke up one day and went, ha, that's it. I'm just going to swear like a sailor at anyone who wants it. No, it's about getting comfortable with the basics and doing simple little things first, and, you know, not always treating someone on the pedestal that you might be taught that relationships are supposed to be, that some people do want that power exchange and that differential. And you start it slowly and you build it up. Okay? There's nothing worse than someone going, oh my God, I've read 50 Shades, I've discovered I'm kinky. That's it, I'm going to do it all as quickly as possible. Okay? Because that's kind of an accident waiting to happen. You've all heard the phrase about people running at things like a bull in a china shop. Kink burnout is a thing. Okay? It's one of those. If you are committed to doing this long term, then please understand from day one, no one is going to jump out of a cupboard with a fanfare and glitter and confetti going, woo, you've completed the BDSM checklist, you've done it all. Okay? There are no prizes for that. And in fact, I'm going to say, healthy people look at the checklist and go, nope, never going to do any of that whatsoever. But these things interest me, because actually understanding what you're not into is kind of as important as what you are into. Okay? Because at the end of the day, some of these activities can generate a very visceral and emotional response in us. So isn't it better to explore through communication, get an idea of what's going to happen before you suddenly delve into it? Okay? So early play sessions, plan them around, hey, this is what we're going to do at the start, this is what we're going to do at the end. Communicate as many of the details as you need to feel comfortable about it, rather than, oh, we're going to play a kinky game tonight and I'm not going to give you any of the details, but I may be sneaking up behind you in a dark alleyway with a coffee bag. Okay? That's probably not the game you want to introduce someone to in the first instance. A full immersive kidnap scenario, it may be the thing that floats their boat, but I'm willing to bet it's probably not the number one thing on their bucket list. Okay? So be sensible, be careful. Equally, like all skills in life, they take time to learn. Okay? I don't care if you've been sailing boats around the world. I don't care if you've been abseiling the tallest structures. I don't care if you were a Boy Scout and had your knotting badge before you were even in long trousers. Okay? Tying people up and doing bondage is different. Some of those skills are transferable. Yeah. You know what rope feels like in your hand. You can tie some common basic knots. But actually, a lot of that information, you need to chuck it in the bin and start again from scratch, because all of a sudden you're tying a person. And being taught how to tie a twig to another twig, or a branch to a tree to make a shelter, that's great life skills, but it's not transferable to tying up a person, because you're now tying a person, not an object. Okay? So even if you are capable of building a shelter in 45 nanoseconds while blindfolded in a 4/7 gale, okay, don't assume that you are ready to start suspending people the moment you buy some rope from upstairs. Doesn't work that way. Okay? And the good news is there are plenty of people in this community who are going to help you, but you need to learn to ask. Oh my God, I saw that thing you were doing the other day. Will you teach me how it's done? That looked really cool. Oh my God, you're paying me a compliment, asking me to share some information and knowledge. chuck in a drink, and it's a winner. It's an absolute dead cert. I'm going to help you because, oh my God, I would far rather you learn properly than made some mistakes and everyone's going, that thing that Cosmic was doing, and then everyone over here is doing it badly. We need to ban it because they're all doing it badly. So I have to suffer because the thing I like that is possibly a little bit controversial, others are doing it badly, therefore I have to stop doing it. No, I want to teach those skills and pass them through as much as possible because then we all benefit, we all learn, we all grow. So that's kind of a little bit of a preamble about the session. One of the things that makes it unique is it's led by you guys. So if you've got a question, ask away. The only question I'm going to refuse to engage and answer on is about children. Okay? Because hey, I have no skills in that particular area. I knew from a very, very young age I didn't want to reproduce, and I have spent 50 years avoiding the concept of reproduction. I like practicing, but I'm not going to actually go to the point of reproducing another organism. Okay? The last time I gave the session, it was back-to-back questions about children and bringing children up in kink households, which is a difficult one for me because although I don't have children, I've obviously interacted with enough people who do, and the answer is keep it age appropriate at all stages. So when they're this high, hey, some people are mummies and daddies, and some people are mummies and mummies, and occasionally you get a mummy, and a daddy, and they all live together very happily. And isn't it wonderful that there's that much love in the house? And as crazy as it sounds, that's how it's done. And I've known kids who've grown up from like 5 and 7 who are now practicing kinksters in their own right. It's a little bit difficult because at the 18 point there has to be that conversation. These are my clubs, and this is where I go, and you can go to all of the other places. And invariably that goes, no, that's not fair. You go to all of the really cool stuff and I want to go to that. Okay, so the next level of compromise is, well, this month we're going to go to this, and this, and you can go to that, and we'll swap around later. Okay. Outside of that, I don't think there is Janet and John do bondage. Okay. General rule, everything with the finer details, let's leave it till people are either 18 or the stage where they find your toy bag. Okay? Because then the first lesson is, well, there's this thing called privacy. And there are some things that, you know, you like to hide in your room and we like to hide in your room. And now, because of the consequences of your action in going to find my stuff, you've now got to understand it. Okay? Which I think is the most beautiful way of explaining you brought this on yourself by rummaging through my cupboards. You probably didn't need to know that Mummy had an 18-inch tall sex gnome, but hey, you do now, and it's entirely your own fault. Okay. Equally, other subjects that come up in these sessions, communication, negotiations, aftercare, but also things like personal responsibility. Huge issue. Quick show of hands here. Who believes that the ultimate responsibility lies with the dominant? Who believes it lies with the submissive? And who believes you share it equally? Excellent. 5 years ago, it was all, it's the dominant's responsibility. It's entirely the responsibility of the dominant. And I'm going, that doesn't quite sit well with me. Because it takes two to tango. And if it's done properly, the dominant has said, oh my God, I'd like to do this with you. Are you cool with that? Set the parameters. And the submissive has gone, yeah, hell yeah, I want to play that game. I want to sign up for that. You've both engaged in the process. Okay? 10 years ago, heavens forbid if you didn't. Yeah, no, absolutely. If you didn't give someone the correct brand of hot chocolate after the scene and wrap them in the appropriate Hello Kitty blanket, well, you were an arch abuser. Okay? And actually, you know what? Let's be honest and just say you failed to deliver on exactly exactly everything that the person wanted. It probably didn't cause the destruction of the known universe. Okay, so let's find a way of managing these things. Because at the end of the day, anyone who says, I've been doing kink for more than, and it's like into the months, and I've never had an issue, might not be being that truthful at the end of the day. Because it's one of those things, we're all human beings, we are going to have good days, bad days, and days that start off wonderfully and then go to shit at the moment's notice. Okay? Life happens like that. Okay? I was due to go to dinner with a group of people and I think they wanted me to do some rope last night. By the time I got there, I was just not in the mood. So I just said, sorry guys, today is not the day I'm going to do this. But I did it at the start of the evening. So everyone was then able to go, yeah, you know what, let's just have a chill out, relaxing, sit around, talk about, and we changed the vibe of the day. So it wasn't a ruined evening, but we just ended up doing something different to the plan. I'm going to have to make that up at some stage, because that was my bad for not having the energy in reserve to do it. But at the end of the day, no one's going, well, that was a wasted evening. No. We all had a great barbecue, we had great food, we got to know each other that little bit better. And some of the people in the room, God, I've known them for 10 years. But I've not actually sat down and had a 5 or 6 hour conversation with them. So that was a really nice use of that time, rather than everyone going, oh, that was disappointing, you promised you'd do this. Sorry. I hoped I was going to do it, but actually, on the evening, it wasn't appropriate because I just didn't have the energy. LAM today, that was my focus. Because love it or hate it, I could either burn the candle at both ends last night, get up all bleary-eyed this morning going, oh, and then turn up and was short crude, so therefore it would have just had that knock-on effect. And I'd have been starting Debs' workshop in a very bad mood and not thinking, what can we share and encourage people to do today? One of those. Anyone got a question? Come on, you must have one.
I think you're discussing a lot about self-awareness. As somebody who's new, how do you go on that journey of self-awareness? What you want and what you like
Okay.
to start those negotiations?
I think there's two elements to that. I'm going to talk about how I first did this. I knew I was kinky. Just from the core, from about the age of 5, I'm sitting on top of the climbing frame with a bag of sweets going, beg for them, you bastards, beg. It wasn't normal behaviour. But about 20 years ago, I made a conscious decision to actually get into kink because I knew there was a community, but in those days, the youngest people who seemed to be connected with it were in their mid to late 40s. And a lot of it interacted through contact magazines and top shelf magazines in newsagents and private shops and stuff like that, because the internet wasn't really that fully formed. So my decision was to go on Amazon and start buying books. Screw the Roses, Give Me the Thorns, SM 101, and at that stage I just absorbed as much information as I could, because I knew it was a complex subject area. And therefore, like everything else I've tackled in my life, go to the books, go to the resources, do your research. So I'm a big advocate of before you even start trying to explain to anyone else that you're kinky, do that foundation work. Okay? Because 4 or 5 books will give you the basic understanding. Okay? You'll start to know that activities are almost like a sliding scale. So it's perfectly fine to be into a little bit of light, gentle tap spanking. And there are other people at the other end of the spectrum who have armor-plated hand covers because they want to spank for so long that they want to protect the palm of their hand. Okay? It's one of those. It's about finding where you are on that spectrum. Once you know where you are, you can then start to think about interacting with other people. I'm lucky. Cut me through in the middle and you're going to see the word Dom in the rings going through me, because that's who I am. Most other people, if they are honest with themselves, are switches to some degree. Now, that's not to say that you are always going to be in that switching mode with another person. you've got to look at it and say, actually, Jerry and I, in terms of the DS dynamics and strength of personality.
Well, I outrank you. I'm switchy. I don't consider myself in any sense a dom. When I top, I tie. I'm not a master. I'm dominant. I'm someone who ties women up, and sometimes likes to be tied. So I switch, but I don't. But there's no kind of power dynamic in it.
But when you look at two individuals, you can then actually see that difference in styles, in energies, in connections. And the point is, when you're wanting to meet other people, if you know yourself and you're confident and have established what you're looking for, then it's easier to find the thing that complements you. Because that way I can go, cool, actually in this case, I'm 100% rope top. And Jerry goes, well, in the right settings, you know, I do like to tie a damsel in distress and play the train track game. However, if I'm being tied myself, I do need someone who has that assertive presence, and therefore it might work between the of us. And that's only because I've put the foundation in, I know where I'm coming from, I hope Jerry's done the same, and therefore when we start communicating, we're on the same level. So I would say it's always something that you start internally, work out where you are, and then look at finding the synergistic connections that link in from there. Okay.
I also found that through going to events like LAM, through going to munches, through meeting people, through talking to people, I found lots of other things that I didn't think floated my boat that actually do. I found other things that I thoroughly enjoy but don't find the least bit kinky. So the things that I've done through meeting people on the scene, like the kinkier photo shoot, very unerotic, very unkinky, but great fun. Take your clothes off and be a table. Fantastic. I think the other thing to say is that you have time. If this is your first event, have a wander around, look at the stalls, talk to people, see the things that interest you, see the things that don't, chat to people. Come back next month and try something.
And again, we all learn in different ways. And the one that I always bring this up with is rote bondage. So you're either a rote learner, the repetition, doing it identical time after time. If that floats your boat, this is the man you talk to, because that's the style of rope he does and likes and enjoys.
And does extremely well.
Yeah. Now, if you want to do something which is never going to look the same twice, but always fits perfectly to the person, but you know what? You're not going to see it in a textbook and be able to get the pattern down pat because it's different every time. Now that would be more Western bondage. Now, if you're one of those individuals, you want to see it once or twice, pick up the skills and be creative yourself, and structured learning is problematic for you, then you're in the Western bondage camp. Now, unfortunately, some people, and the reason for bringing this up is if you get someone who is like me and a mad, eccentric creative, and you put them in that kind of environment, it clashes. I just don't learn well in that structured environment because it's not how my head processes information. And on that end, if you understand that about yourself, it will enhance the efficiency of your learning because you're focusing on the things that are going to work for you, and then 5 or 6 of those in, you can then look at tackling something that's more complex and going, right, okay, I'm now going to do urethral sounding.
Red!
Yeah, a lot more red for an awful lot of people, but I would always be worried if someone went, oh my God, I've just discovered I'm kinky and I want someone to teach me how to do urethral sounding because I've got my first playmate coming around next week. That is just the wrong starting point. Okay. Now, if you can then sit there and go, no, seriously, the only kink I'm interested in urethral sounding, look at my bookmarks on Chrome. I just have pages and pages and pages of content all about urethral sounding. Then great. Then you probably can convince me. But if it's just the first time we've met, oh my God, you've got to teach me something that's really scary and dangerous, I'm not going to do that. Just simply because I'm not confident that you're going to do the right things with those skills. Because at the end of the day, there are some wonderful things that you can learn and explore in kink. People often say to me in my working environment, very commanding and very domineering attitude, and you're very good with all of these instructions you give people to fix the problem, and you're very much in control. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay, you want to see me on the weekend because the manual is bigger, the instructions are more precise, and I want it done a very specific way. If you're paying me for the service that my company is providing you, you get a little bit of luxury as a customer and you can be a little bit lax. If you're working in my household and it's a DS dynamic and we're working towards something, it's going to be a lot more strict than I am Monday to Friday. And yet some people will think, God, you are the most kind of domineering person I've ever met. Sometimes they will say I'm the rudest person I've ever met because my job is to fix a problem. And actually, at £350 an hour, if the person standing in front of me is the problem because they're not engaging quickly, I have to actually look at my watch and say, if I can waste another 60 seconds doing this, this is £3 of their pocket. So actually, I'm not going to do that. I would say, look, at this particular stage, you've got to realise that one of us has done this for 16 years and one of us has been dealing with this for 16 hours. Which one of us do you think is going to be given the right information? And on this particular occasion, two of these, one of these, perfect ratio. And people are like, whoa. I never swear at people, but I am going to be very, very clear that in this particular situation, I'm there to help, and the best help I can give is to kind of create some boundaries around them and say, on this particular one, you need to be in the learning mode because we're going to assist you. Don't fight us in doing this because the people who fight us in doing this have still got the problem because we'll get bored before you do and we'll say, keep asking you to follow the instructions and you won't do it, so let's just move on. So anyway, I digress.
Kind of question in three parts, all interconnected, although there's a fourth part because I want to know how you get £350 an hour because I want that job. But the first one's about online, the second one is about in-person, the third one is about community, so they're interrelated. You mentioned FetLife earlier on. Is that the one and only website that you recommend or that people go to? Secondly, in-person, I mean, we've just discovered Torture Garden, which is just the bomb, but is there anything else other than that that people should be sort of looking at within this environment? And then third, with regards to community, I mean, we walk past people in the street and I often wonder what he or she is into, even though they dress normally and look like sensible vanilla people, but in reality, from what you just told us, you're a bit out there. So we need to party, but at the same time, how do you sort of find someone or people that you can interrelate with or engage with without them kind of going, what the actual fuck are you talking about?
Yes. Okay. Right.
But more importantly, question number 4, how do I earn £350 an hour? Enjoy that, what you're doing.
Okay, right. I'm going to answer the fourth question first. You work for someone else, you start a tiki market, they panic, they never give you any more work again. And the area that you pick to specialise in is so incredibly niche that the furthest I've been to work is Buenos Aires in Argentina. And they paid me for my travel. So it's just one of those odd ones. I'm on the spectrum myself. I spotted something that no one else was looking at and kind of went, I shall be the J.R. Hartley of this field. And everyone went, you're insane. And literally, that is my job and that is what I do. And it's very incredibly niche. And none of you ever want to meet me Monday to Friday because it means you're having one of the worst days of your life. It's as simple as that. But that's actually what works because if you think about it, the stress of playing and doing scary things in a dom sub game, it's that control dynamic. So to me, I'm most comfortable in chaos. So if things are running around like the eye of a storm, I'm happy. That's my happy space. I'm looking at all the objects spinning around going, oh, that one over there is going to collide with that one over there in a second, and watching it do it. It's just me. So one of those, it's niche, it's incredibly weird, and it's even more obscure than my previous job, which was molecular biology.
I kind of got that. It was 1, 2, and 3 that I was more interested in.
So one again, just to
FetLife.
FetLife, yes. Okay, right.
People
Slightly
sometimes
kind-
say, people sometimes say FetLife is a kinky Facebook. It ain't. People also think they can join FetLife and see loads of exciting stuff. You can, but there's better stuff. There's better porn on the internet. FetLife doesn't make sense until you meet people.
Now, over the years, FetLife, bondage.com, Adult Friends Finder, alt.com, colony.com, Collarspace, Whippler. There's another one about to come out, which I will come on to in a minute. Okay. Personally, I think they're all absolutely shit. Okay, I'll be honest, because you know what? I never had an enjoyable scene with someone that interfaced via a keyboard and computer screen. Okay, because to me, that doesn't float my boat. It doesn't get my neurochemicals transmitting and popping and me singing. Okay, and I've also been around for long enough to see them come and go. So there is a danger that people think, oh my God, FetLife is the kink scene. It's not. It's a method that we use for communication. If you don't like black websites with white writing on them, not your thing. You might want to either change your browser settings, or people literally, oh my God, I misinformed consent because it was a white background with blue writing on it. Personal preference. So I would say, look at them all. If one floats your boat and engages with you, fucking excellent, awesome. FetLife is probably the one you want to have a minimum profile on, because that's the one where most people will say, oh, what's your FetLife name? Now, at that stage, they want to look up your list of kinks, look at the pictures, look at the people that you know, see what your connections are, because it's kind of a little bit of, oh, I want to know who this person is. And the more questions they want to ask of you means that they might want to play or interact with you. So having that information in a clear format somewhere, I think is really useful. But I like to keep it in a way that can be cut and pasted, because at some stage FetLife will disappear and we'll be talking about the rubberkeyboard.com or something. Whatever it is, it hasn't been invented yet. It might have a unique position. It might have more interaction that works in a different way to the other ones. So I look at it and say, great tool. Do I think it's part of our core values as a community? They come and go. Join the ones that you're comfortable with and treat it that way. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, going out. Oh my God. Great. You found a good night that you enjoyed. Now, I'm going to suggest that you start thinking about your nights out in 3 categories, almost like a Venn diagram. Dance, dress, play. Because actually all fetish events can be summarized up by their percentage and priority to all 3 of those activities. So to me, Torture Garden, big on the dress, big on the music, not so good on the play. It scratches an itch for some people, but not everyone. So it's a good club environment. Now, if the music was your thing and you like that kind of electronic modern tone, then you want to look at some of the other clubs. Maybe Crossbreed is one for you. If you like the more heavy industrial rock type music, then you want to go Antichrist and stuff like that, because a lot of those clubs will also identify themselves around the type of music and genre from there. So it sounds to me like music is a key element for a good night out for you. Dressing up, is a good night, is an element for a good night out, and therefore look at the bigger stuff from there. Okay.
It's play, dressing, music.
Yeah.
So we need
But-
somewhere else.
But once you step out of that then, and music has its own significance, you then start getting the problem at the other end of the spectrum, which is you're going to an awful lot of dungeons where they're playing Enigma or 80s rock music. Okay? And it's just one of those. There's a group of people who are in the organising, and that's the music that they have associated with. So unless you say to them, hey, can we bring a modern playlist that's kind of got something from the last 20 years, you might not get it. Okay? And equally, the more play-orientated events are kind of not really into music. They might have music that you can play to, music with a nice beat, something to interact with, but you're not necessarily going to hear the latest DJ that you're looking for. So there's going to be that element of compromise between the two. If music is important, but the play and the kit is massively important, then I'm going to say set to Bluetooth headphones, so that you're actually both connected to the same music at the same time, and you can keep that element going. Okay?
One sort of bonus I would say if you're doing FetLife, I've found one or two events that you've got enough friends that you'll see. Oh, all right, friends are going to this event and that event. So yeah, you get
It's a bit like the book recommendations on Amazon.
yeah.
So and so went to this and thinks it's great. I might give that a
People
try as well.
Yeah.
So, websites, events, and again, there'll be nights when you're in the mood for one thing and there are nights when you're in the mood for something else. So I'm always going to say explore as much as you can, but in doing so, keep your mind and eyes open and look at how well organised the events are. Because not everyone is above board and legitimate. And that's fine. There's nothing to stop people having unlicensed nightclubs in venues that they're not supposed to be having them. But actually, if you are expecting a certain level of security and protection and health and safety, then you need to be a little bit careful where you walk in some places. Okay? Lots and lots of stuff out there. You'll find there are events that are femdom orientated. There are events where there isn't a bias. There are events that are specific to things like rope. You'll even find events that are specific to people being hunted with softball and air rifle and pellet gun out in woods. Okay, so it's just a matter of get out there and interact and look. That is where things like FetLife do have their big advantage, because in order to get people to attend events, someone like me has to stand there and shout about them. So you'll see the information around. Okay. I'm just trying to think.
That was just about community, how to
Yeah.
sort of meet people and find out what they're into.
Yep, and the answer to that is, like everything else in life, get out. Get out to as many things as you can. Okay? Because it's better nowadays. 10 years ago, everyone was very nervous about new people because they might be a journalist, they might be someone who doesn't understand the rules, and therefore you had to go to like 8 to 10 things before people say, I saw you sitting there at LAM the other week. Hi, how are you? What are you into? Okay, so repetition, getting out, you'll start to see similar faces. Attend your local munches. If you're in North London, then head to one of those. Go 2 or 3 times. If you don't like it and you feel it's a bit cliquey, then wander on and find another. On Friday night, I think I went to 3 events. Now, 2 of them I literally dropped into for about 45 seconds. I went to one. Hi, can I come in? Oh, sorry, we're just about to close. Okay, no problem. I had a look around the outside and decided I didn't want to go back yesterday. So I saved myself some money by going out and doing that. I then went to an event in Soho, which was great. I sat down, had a drink, got chatting to the 10 or so people that were there, and then thought, it's quite early, I might nip to the Metal Munch around the corner, and I went into the Metal Munch, and no one that I knew was there, didn't fancy having a conversation with random people, so I just came home early. And it's one of those, you can dip in and out, do your thing, but do as much as you are comfortable with, because not everyone goes to everything.
We'll just check out London.
LondonFetishScene.com. Are you based in London? LondonFetishScene.com.
And you go to
As a calendar.
A huge calendar that lists most of the events that are on.
Monday I'll do this, Tuesday I'll do this.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing
That's
is,
exactly what I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
most of us did.
there's a forum and all of the elements for communication, just like FetLife, on the LFS website.
Okay.
But there's no active users at present. Because, funnily enough, about 8 years ago, everyone suddenly went, yeah, we're a bit bored of this site and we'll all step over here. And it left an entirely empty architecture behind. But it's still there because the calendar is amazing. You can go on, see exactly what's going on, and get a good overview in one place. Where the calendar on FetLife, I think, is absolutely bloody awful, which is why people look at other people to find out what is on and what's worth going to. If you haven't discovered him yet, there's a guy called Into Fetish who seems to go to almost everything in London. So
He's down for coming today. I haven't seen him yet.
yeah. So once a week, I log on to his profile to see what he's attending and go, oh yeah, I fancy that, and tick myself as amazing.
Where is he?
It's called Into Fetish
On FetLife.
on FetLife.
There you go.
If you're not on FetLife, I'm guessing you're not on FetLife. No.
No.
It's very easy to set up a profile. You don't have to be verified. If you meet someone and talk to people, we always say talk to each other. Most teachers are happy to talk about kink. Talk to people in the room, talk to people you meet, get their FetLife name, look at my FetLife profile. I used to say, well, when I first started going to Munches, I'd say, here's my FetLife profile. Someone I've known for half an hour looks at my profile. They know stuff my feminine friends haven't known for 50 years. Find out what I'm into. Oh, I see you're into that. Where do you go to do that?
With me, I have 750 plus pictures on there because I will often say to people, oh my God, you want to play? Pick something off the list. Because to me, it's so incredibly simple. It's like, that's the stuff I've done before.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go through the list and the things that kind of get you a little bit damp in the gusset? Well, they're things that you want to try, and they're things I'd probably want to try with you as well, because you're going to enjoy it, I'm going to enjoy it. Great chemistry. So
I had a great one with that. I had somebody show me how I had a picture, and I've clicked some right pictures, and I like ones like this and ones like this. So I went to my profile and pulled up that picture, and that picture. And they showed me, I went, yeah, I totally like that.
and again, it's great communication tool. Yeah. I'm not going to run around going to everyone, oh my God, I want to tie you up, I want to spank you, I want to beat you, because quite frankly, it's probably a tad creepy. So I prefer to wait for people to come up to me. So having that showcase, that window to say, this is what I do, this is what I enjoy, it's really an easy way of doing that. Okay. And that kind of ties in with the community, because you will get, it's not one community, it's communities. Okay. So you might get the Japanese style rope bondage community, of which Craig is a huge member of. And if you are part of that sub-community and you don't know Craig, come out from the cave. Okay?
Alternatively, we've got quite a few puppies here today.
Puppy community, animal communities. So people will form micro communities around activities, around locations, around enjoying particular events. So some people think that it's one amorphous mass, but actually it's too disparate for it to be one entity. And I'm kind of glad it's not one entity, because if it was one entity, someone would think that they were God of it, and that they were in charge of all of it, and that there was one true way, and all of those awful things that happen with communities would occur in ours. So there's many different ones as possible, and that way people can kind of dip in and go, oh my God, I really love that aspect of this, but I'm not going there again because that didn't quite float my boat. Yeah, it's the best way to get out and explore. Okay, and that way again, you go to something, and if you go, oh my god, this is really great. What else are you guys going to? What are you enjoying? What's coming up in your diary? Because again, people will love to share. Yeah? Who doesn't want more enthusiastic people coming along and adding atmosphere into what they're doing? Whereas if you're the boring one sitting in the back of the room, I was expecting it to be presented in imperial measurements only because I'm a 1950s household. It's one of those. The more niche you are, the less likely you are to find your tribe. So, in fact, I'm going to say tribes, not communities, because that way it's more people running together, I think is the right analogy, rather than a community with a structured board of representatives and all that kind of malarkey.
There's about 6 people standing in the hall. If you'd like to come in and
You
join
can
us,
come
there
in.
are
I do
seats.
have a couple of minutes left of this. In fact, about 4 or 5. So, any other questions? No. I'm going to put in a pitch and say there is a playlist on the LAM website that has all the healthy mental practices sessions. You can dip in and out of those, listen to it. As I said, you'll be surprised the number of questions that come up time after time after time, because as new people come along, they will ask those questions for themselves. And let's face it, with, I think it's something stupid like 450, if not 500 or 600 hours worth of some of these workshops, actually sitting down and going through the whole lot to find if your question has been asked before. I don't expect anyone to do that.
Laborious is working his way through this.
We have an archivist who's going through to try and actually catalogue every single one, but the problem is I'm producing them so fast that the archivist can't actually keep up with it, which I'm quite happy to do it that way as well. Right. Outside of that, the next workshop that is going to be in here is going to be on flogging and flogging techniques with Graham from Affordable Leather at 3 o'clock. And then I will be back in here to do due diligence for deviance at 4 o'clock today. The other thing I was going to point out, and the reason why this pop-up is there, you will start to see more and more of these pop-up banners around LAM. They are going to be key messages that we think are important, we would like to share with you on a regular basis. So if you scan them, they will all link through to additional resources, whether it's the educational section of the website. We're having, they didn't get done for this month, I think they're for next month. There's going to be body outlines showing where are the safe places to do impact play on people. And that way, as you're coming along, you can go, oh, great resource. Let me scan the code that goes along with it. And that way, I've got a resource that I can have at home and check and all of the rest of it. And equally, there is a competition that we now run, which is show us what you bought. Anything you buy from LAM, stick pictures on FetLife, Facebook, wherever, tag us into it, and we do a draw each month so that someone gets some shopping cash for the next month. Okay? Because it helps promote the traders, and that's one of the things that we do as an organisation. We want nice, healthy traders as part of our community. We want nice, healthy guests as part of our community who are like, oh my God, give me all the consent with fries. Or if you're into bondage, you can now have it with rice as well. Okay?
To kneel on.
What?
It's me.
To kneel on.
That's not quite how it's supposed to work, and you know. Okay?
Just before we finish, the market, everything you see today is basically run by Cosmic with a team of crew. We are 9 crew down today. We have a lot of stuff to shift from the sub-basement and set the dungeon stuff up. If any of you would like to help out between 6 and 7, you'll get a beer, you'll get free entry next month, you'll get to chat to people. But it's humping stuff. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. If anyone would like to help out seriously, we could really do with the help.
4 o'clock.
To do some extra hands.
Yeah.
Just literally, as I said, today is a bad one in terms of the numbers down, and we're also down the lift. Okay, so we're going to be fire chaining stuff up the floors today. But you know what? bank holiday weekend, you've got Monday off to recover. And actually, one of the things that we find a lot with this is that not everyone is capable of enjoying an event without giving a little bit back. So if it's one of those that you go, actually, I'm one of those people, I'd like to do a little bit of something, even if it's just wandering around and sticking signs up or putting them down at the end of the day, that gives people a little bit of ownership into the event and into the community. And we have volunteering positions where it could be just sitting on the cloakroom, right the way through to the unfortunates who have to lift and carry and look after this stuff between events as well. So, without further ado, please enjoy the rest of the day. If you've got any suggestions on workshops, please let us know. We are always happy to cover things, and have an awesome and enjoyable day.
Thank you.